Recording in progress. La di da di da. Camera on me. 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to another edition of Inside the Burrow, the FAU podcast for and by Owls fans, presented by, you guys already know, FUOwlsNest.com. Oh, man. Whoa, that was fun. What a day Thursday was, huh, guys? Holy smokes. I mean, Thursday. I had to take a 24-hour nap after that. I had to go in hibernation. Definitely was a great day. Starting off with FAU officially being announced as a new member of the American Conference at 10 a.m. There was press conference with the American at 12. FAU had their press conference at 4:30. President Kelly, Brian White, everyone was there, including Beverly Schnellenberger as well, which was just wonderful to see. And you think, oh, man, what a busy day. That's it. Nope. Owls had a game that day, traveling up to Charlotte, a place where FAU has yet to lose. But, hey, Willie Taggart hasn't won out of state yet. Hello, what do you know? FAU, they got themselves a win, all right. All we needed to do is travel to Charlotte. Owls win 38-9. Great day, great week. Kirk, man, welcome back, brother. Real quick takeaways on the monumental day for the entire university and just getting a monkey off the back for the football team as well.
I mean, it was huge overall because, after that in the first half, I was nervous, from that end, when Charlotte basically took up half of that second quarter, that 95, whatever that drive was, it was a nightmare. We missed the third down tackle that basically extended the drive out for them to score a touchdown and take the lead. So I was nervous going into that second half, thinking, here comes the same, road team Owls that we've seen under Taggart. But, I think what the second half proved is when this team shows up, doesn't make the silly mistakes, the talent's there to beat anybody. I mean, they can, if they get a rematch, UAB is a whole nother story after losing the Rice. But it's like, to me, the talent's there to beat UTSA. The talent's there to beat Marshall. The talent's there to beat Western Kentucky. You just have to show up, play their game, and not worry about what the other team does. Because to me, if they play their A game, nobody in this conference can beat them. The talent's there. It's just, and we saw that in the second half. Charlotte didn't have an answer, especially on defense. The only person who was stopping FAU was themselves on offense. I mean, Chris Reynolds made some plays. It seemed like he maybe was a little nicked up in the second half, but you can't apologize for taking advantage of that. One person who just kind of being Tampa Owls here. Just one person who stood out to me is Evan Anderson. That guy is a game wrecker. He's like our little mini. Well, he's nothing mini about him, but he's like our mini Vita Vea, like watching Buck games. Like the dude, even on plays he doesn't make, he affects the play in different ways. I mean, up the middle, dude just wrecks games. That dude, we're lucky to have him. And it's just crazy to think, he's a second-year freshman making an impact like that in the interior defensive line, You don't see something like that. But, it was a complete second half. So, everything, you want from a second half we saw.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you mentioned that. I think the only team in Conference USA that can beat FAU is FAU. And that's definitely what happened with UAB. UAB did nothing special that day in Birmingham. That was all self-inflicted wounds. And you spotted them 14 points. 3 minutes into the game. Of course, a team that just won the conference is going to take advantage of that. But seeing how they handled Rice, you better want a rematch. And, we said it a couple weeks ago when we played UAB. We very well could get a rematch. I didn't think we would, find, win the East Division after that game. But, here we are. We have everything to play for moving forward. We control our destiny. Beat Marshall, beat Western Kentucky. It's all on us. Evan Anderson, dude, I'm so happy you mentioned him. The best part of the night, real quick, we got to talk to Caleb Bryce, who also just completely balled out in his home state. He had like 15 or 20 of his members of his family there supporting him. And he said it was a really special day. But he said two things that really stood out. One, He calls Evan Anderson mini jelly bean. So when he says nothing mini about him, and he said I'm not sure if Evan ever wants that out there, but it's out there now. I'm sorry, brother, it's out there. That was the first thing, and the second important thing is that when Evan Anderson is really able to play that nose tackle position and just wreak havoc on an offensive line, he says that's when he really feels like he has the freedom to play behind him and play his style of game. Because we know Calip he's not a small dude either. He's no mini what, you know. He can probably be a D end if he really wanted to, or be on the defensive line if he wanted to. So, seeing how Calip was very complimentary towards Evan, and how he said, Evan had a big day, which meant I could have a big day. I think that was great to see. I think we're really, really starting to see this defense come together. And I am recording. Oh shit, here we go. My bad. Really come together. And you see that with the with how we mentioned about Chris Reynolds, one of the best quarterbacks, definitely one of the most experienced in Conference USA. We kept him at bay. He struggled. He was pulled early in the fourth quarter. I would never think I would see that. Never. Victor Tucker, yeah, listen, he had six catches, a little over 100 yards, but he didn't have that big play, that big touchdown that killed us like it did Marshall when Charlotte played Marshall at home in 2019. So, or we've seen time and time again from him. So I'll definitely take it. We're never gonna have to see Chris Reynolds ever again. I'll take that, and I don't mean that in a negative way with him. That's because I respect the crap out of how he plays. That little flick that he did when he was getting sacked on his own 2-yard line. I think that was actually that 17 play, 95-yard drive you mentioned just before the halftime. I mean, that just goes to show what kind of baller he is and why we have all that respect for him. So, I wish our defense wouldn't give up those third down conversions like they did on that drive, even a fourth down conversion there. But hey, man, they look good on the goal line. Yeah, they let them score on fourth down, but they stopped them a couple times before that. And did you see the stat that FAU football tweeted earlier today? Check this out.
I missed that one.
Oh, you're gonna love this one, especially. I know you, Kirk. The FAU defense is now tied for first place in red zone defense. The team they're tied with is this little team called Clemson. Maybe you heard of them. I don't know. Yeah, okay. Listen, they were struggling this year, but they're still, the talent they have on that team is insane. Behind us is Cincinnati, who right now is 60% chance of making the college football playoff. That is a really good group of teams that you want to be involved in. So I'm just over the moon. And hey, the running game looked great, don't you think? What was your big takeaway on the offense, especially?
I mean, honestly, it was that they didn't beat themselves. Because I mean, it kind of goes to the fact that if they don't make the mistakes, they play from ahead. Charlotte wasn't stopping them that entire game. Even in that first half, the only person who stopped FAU in that first half was FAU. You could tell Charlotte didn't have an answer for them. The balance. Nkosi threw 11 passes, and 3 of those passes went for a touchdown. So I mean, you got to see the explosive plays out of Johnny Ford running the ball, and with that, with the receiving touchdown he had too. So you saw the explosive plays. You saw us be able to sustain drives as well. It's the perfect balance I think you want to see out of this offense. If that second half team shows up, this team runs the table. It's just, can they find that consistency from here on out? It was the perfect second half. If you draw something up, that's what you want to see out of this team.
It reminded me a lot of the Lane Kiffin years, didn't it? Explosive offense, ball hawking defense is going to cause turnovers, and the offense quick to strike before the other team knows what's going on. They just gave up 21 points, right?
Yeah, I mean, that second half, I mean, what was it? When we went from down 2 to up 3 touchdowns, snap of fingers. I mean, Charlotte didn't know what to do. You had then Chris Reynolds try to force the ball, and our defense made the plays that Reynolds gave to him. And, that's what a great team does. Just now they just need to continue with it, build off it.
Do you think? I mean, if they can't do that, the offensive line looked much improved. By the way, especially with
Mhm.
BJ ATN in there. I mean, I know we kind of talked about it earlier, but do we really start to think that we can pull off the East again?
I mean, I tend to think so because it really seems like Marshall's having a down year. Like, if there's a year to get Marshall, especially at home, this is the year. We look at our two remaining road games. Old Dominion is not good. So even if we go out and struggle on the road and Virginia, that game we should still win. It's probably going to come down to West Kentucky. Are we able to make enough stops on Bailey Zappi? Not to look ahead, not looking ahead, before we talk about UTEP later. UTEP, even though they're 6-1, who have they really beaten? What's their quality of victory look like? Their control of the games. So, I mean, everything is ahead of us to do it. It's, I want to see more consistency. I would say the key is are we going to build off that second half? Because I feel like we've seen glimpses like FIU. We saw this team show up in that second half too. Can we have a great first half? Like, can we come out and just stomp on a team in the beginning? Because that we really haven't seen. Even FIU hung around for a first half, or we fallen behind. The UAB game, we fought our way back to 14-14. Obviously, let's talk about the Air Force game. It's like, let's see how we could start a game and see, if we can get a first half. Because I don't think we can afford to do that when we go to Bowling Green. Because if we don't show up for a half, Bailey Zappi might have 300 yards passing and a 3-touchdown lead before we get to half, and we're not coming back. And we've proven that we're not a team that's going to come in.
Yeah, no, exactly. For fans that didn't see, Western Kentucky did struggle at Miami against FIU, but then in the second half, they just ran right through the thing. And so that Western Kentucky's probably saying the exact same thing. Hey, if we can put a first half together, then we're golden. They can win the East. I guarantee you that's what they're saying in Bowling Green. And I think a dominant first half is the only thing that's preventing us from looking like we did at the Lane Kiffin years. I remember when we played North Texas twice in 2017. I mean, end of the first quarter was already 21-0. Remember correct? I mean, it's just absolutely insane. So if we can do those kinds of numbers, if we can be the team that forces the other offense to throw their game plan out the window, then I like our chances because we've seen what happens. We saw what happened when we did that to FIU. We saw what happened when we did that to Charlotte, who, I mean, I've been respecting Charlotte for a long time now. Everything that Will Healy's been doing for a long time now. So if we're able to throw Chris Reynolds out of a game, I like it. I like it. No doubt.
And then it just kind of circle back what you said about the O-line too. I feel like that was like the first game too. We saw them, where we saw UAB, they got dominated. That was like the really scary thing. So I think seeing them have a bounce back game gives us hope because I think going back to 2019, we kind of saw a similar situation where the offensive line was struggling in the beginning of the year under Lane and Charlie Weiss Jr. And then I remember when we all of a sudden got Desmond Noel kind of mid-season, all of a sudden everything kind of stabilized and we saw the offensive line really take off and start dominating games. Maybe BG Etienne kind of does the same effect where maybe settle things down and, guys make plays. So I think seeing that improvement from the offensive line, from week to week was a great thing to see as well.
So to talk UTEP, we're going to go ahead and have Alex Nicolas. Y'all remember him from the Miner Rush days in the past. He now works with 600 ESPN El Paso. Alex, hey, brother, thank you for joining us. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, no problem, man. Astros in the World Series. Like you mentioned, the Miners are in the bowl game, and so I can't complain right now, man.
Yeah, you're talking to two Tampa Owls that are still upset about the Rays losing in the playoffs. So we're not talking about baseball here. But, hey, we are talking about those bowl-eligible Miners, baby. I mean, a story of the year, I would say. A quick shout out to my friend Alex, who goes to UCF. He was actually in El Paso against that win over La Tech last weekend or 2 weekends ago. Beg your pardon. I mean, great story. DeMel really looks like he has turned that program for the better. They have more wins now than they've had, in the last 3 years? What? So if you can, Alex, what really went into this turnaround in El Paso?
The first thing I look at it, it's a product of a very manageable schedule, something UTEP hasn't had in quite a while. UTEP has had to front load those money games and pretty much come out, on the opposite end of those for a while. And now this year, it's set up real nice where you had, two winnable games where you think, okay, UTEP starts 2-0. And then you get into those possibles, the New Mexicos, the Old Dominions, the Southern Misses, and not even to a point La Tech. La Tech is out of that, and it's happened for UTEP. So that, to me, is one of the main things is UTEP is a product of an easy schedule. And I think program development and player development, that's really another area that I look at. UTEP isn't recruiting the 3 or 4 stars that the FAUs, the UTSAs, the North Texas, the La Techs are. They're getting guys that, just to be honest, no one really wants in a sense. And that development to me has been keen for them over the past 2 or 3 years. And that perfect storm of the easy schedule plus some player development has what we have here, where UTEP's reigning in wins, something that we haven't seen. Like you said, it's been quite a while. And I think those two formulas have worked out for UTEP, and it's been a perfect storm for the start so far.
Obviously, so Alex, how you doing? Just looking at the team, obviously you brought up, some people would point to, the 6-1 record, probably kind of what you mentioned, kind of a, an easier schedule to start off. But I feel like you have pulled off some, Conference USA games. You mentioned the La Tech game, normally games they don't win. What's the difference? Like, are there any playmakers that we should be on the lookout for? Or, who are the impact players, whether that's on offense or defense, that, as Owl fans, we should look for?
I think, at first starting off, looking at UTEP's main strength, it's their front 7 on defense. And it really parlays into that front 4. UTEP switched to an even front this year, where they had been kind of going 3-4, 3-3-5, even a little bit of a 4-2-5. But really the key to me has been what they've been doing with this front 4. And you look at those guys up front, Jadrian Taylor, right now, I think he's up there in Conference USA, one of the top sack leaders in Conference USA with 6.5. Praise Amawale, who's been, a 3-year guy, a 3-year sophomore, that's a 3rd-year sophomore, that's really has made plays since he's walked on campus. And then one of the key players that I think in the middle of that defensive line is Keenan Stewart. This is a guy that's a JUCO transfer, could possibly be a sneaky 5th to 7th round. He's going to make somebody look good if somebody doesn't pick him up 5th, 7th round. And he gets an undrafted free agent contract because I think he already has that type of talent. And that's really where UTEP's hung their hat is their pressure. And not only just their pressure, but to be able to stop the run. And it starts with the defense. This is a UTEP team that's sort of struggled to be consistent in what they want to do in terms of running the ball, but they've been really bailed out by great defensive line play. And I think that's something that UTEP hasn't seen really since the early 2000s. You got to go that far back to see the great defensive line play that UTEP's getting. And it really starts with those 3 that I mentioned, Jadrian Taylor, Praise Amawale, Keenan Stewart. Those are 3 guys that you really, really want to key on, I think, if you're FAU, particularly if you want to get something of a run game going. You got to push those 3 fellas around. And it hasn't been easy because not only are those guys big, but they're athletic and they create havoc, and that's really been a big key for UTEP this year, is having those 3 guys along with some talent and some depth in the secondary to be able to help out as well.
Yeah, Alex, and I'm a big fan of Jacob Cowing. I couldn't get his last name right, but he's like top 10 in total receiving yards right now in the nation. That's no joke. That's not a type of offensive firepower we've seen from the Miners in quite some time. But on that note, you mentioned the early 2000s and that strong defensive line play that UTEP was known for at the time. For a long while since they were in Conference USA, UTEP was known as athletics wide. Basketball especially comes to mind as a program that has a very strong following and can definitely put itself in a good position when it comes to climbing the conference ranks. So here we go. It's all anyone's really talking about is conference realignment. UTEP seems like they're going to be one of the schools that are left in Conference USA. So to recap, you already have your 6 USA schools going to the American. Some news today, Southern Miss, they're going to the Sun Belt, guys, just so you all know. They're done. Old Dominion and Marshall are like 95% to the Sun Belt as well. I mean, expect some news on that in this coming week. So that puts Conference USA in a really tough spot. And we know all about UTEP and how they especially are on a geographic island out there in El Paso. So what do you think it's going to take to kind of get the city excited again? Do you see some of that excitement coming back already this year? And how do you think UTEP is going to look out into the future? And same goes for Conference USA. What, I guess, for lack of a better term, what hope do you have for Conference USA moving forward?
I think you are starting to see the wagon circle a little bit around this program, particularly overlooking FAU, looking ahead to the UTSA game. There's already that chat on Twitter. So I think that type of excitement is expected with 6 wins and a tough game on the road this week that obviously people are overlooking. But, looking at where UTEP stands in Conference USA, I think their best bet is to stay put. UTEP hasn't invested the money that FAU has, UTSA, North Texas has into their football program. And that goes to facilities, the little wrinkles that comes with it, and also paying coaches. And that's really, to be honest with you, UTEP has to bite the bullet and say, hey, we got left behind. As tough as that is to, you always want to be in those sexy conferences. You want to be with the big names, but UTEP's been left behind. And unfortunately, that's the reality of where UTEP is at. So staying in Conference USA and, inviting teams like New Mexico, cringes me to say this, but inviting teams like New Mexico State, Tarleton State, Sam Houston State, some of the rumored teams. I mean, this is sort of Conference USA 3.0. And I think UTEP really has to grab the bull by the horns and invest in themselves to not only get out of this, what could be a newly formed conference down the road, but to be able to be the cream of the crop in this new formed Conference USA with some of these quote unquote FCS schools that are going to be coming up. So in my opinion, UTEP's best bet is to stay put, become a CUSA pillar and the CUSA kind of a talking point for, the CUSA powers that be. But, and it goes back to, like I mentioned, just UTEP just did not invest in themselves really since Conference USA 2.0 started back in 2013, where UTEP had possibly the top facilities in the conference. But time has passed and that, time waits for no one, and that's where UTEP's got left behind. So to me, as unsexy as it is, to say, UTEP's best, bet in Division One, maybe success wise, revenue wise, and just having consistency would be to stay in Conference USA, in my opinion.
Wow, you really want to give New Mexico State a lifeline, huh? For fans that don't know, the Miners from El Paso and the Aggies from Las Cruces. I mean, that is a bitter rivalry.
Yeah, it is. But at the same time, the way that I look at it is that opens up an out of conference slot for either team. Go get yourself another money game. You want to get that training table, go play Texas every year. You want to get those new uniforms, or you want to get that new, jugs machine. Hey, go play, Florida next year, whatever it is. It's a random team. But, I think it's time, for New Mexico State and UTEP to be border foes. I think it's been since the 60s. Somebody will correct me on Twitter when they listen to this podcast, the old border conference. But I think it's time, as bitter as it is, New Mexico State has been there for UTEP with certain things. And so as UTEP with COVID last year, letting them use their facilities. So I think it's time, to kind of put that bearing down. I know, you talk about Louisiana Tech in kind of the same rail where they don't want no other Louisiana programs or regional programs here. I'm kind of looking differently. It's time. UTEP's at that level now, so it is time to bring them in. And that's, to me, that's what's going to help UTEP is bringing in a team like Conference USA, or bringing in a team like New Mexico to Conference USA. So whatever can help UTEP, even if it's your nosy, smelly little brother from 45 minutes away, let's do it so that way we can still play Division I athletics. That's how I look at it. I don't want to drop to FCS. I don't want to go the independent route. You go the independent route, it's killing New Mexico State's program right now. So that's how I look at it. Being a little bit, rewarding little brother down the road a little bit.
Wow, does that sound familiar, Owl Nation? To a little situation going down in West Miami. But hey, I digress. Alex, real quick, man. Where can Owl fans, if you're not following him, guys? I mean, I'm telling you, he's been on the UTEP train for a long while. He's had a suffer through a lot. So give him a follow. Alex, where can Owl fans follow you on social media?
You can follow me on Twitter at Nicolas Alex 915 Nicolas Alex 915. And also check out 600 ESPN at 600 ESPN El Paso. They are the flagship station of UTEP athletics, and you'll see a bunch of previews up there throughout the week from Adrian Broadus, one of the key beat writers there. And also they also podcast like coaches interviews. I know today they had like Gavin Hardison in studio and stuff like that. So great resource there, 600 ESPN El Paso or KROD.com. They're the local UTEP. They're the flagship of UTEP football.
Rock on. Thank you so much. And to close, Alex, you can be honest. It's all right. It's a safe space, brother. Do you have a prediction for Saturday's game?
Yeah, I really do. And it's going to, I'll probably, hopefully I get some FAU followers for this. But yeah, I think FAU pulls this one out. I don't think UTEP, the next 2 weeks, UTEP's going to face the best quarterbacks that they've seen in Perry this week and Frank Harris next week. So, I think that's the big difference maker in this game. I'm going to go 2 scores. I think it'll be a low scoring game. I think UTEP will keep it close just with their defense, but I see FAU with a 24-10 win or maybe even some late scores to kind of put it away. But yeah, I think FAU, looking at what they did to Charlotte last week, I could see something similar in UTEP, even though the UTEP train is riding mighty right now. But, like I mentioned, that quarterback situation there that FAU has, it looks plentiful in my eyes, and UTEP hasn't faced a quarterback like that. So I think they're going to struggle just a little bit there.
Kirk, what say you on your prediction for Saturday night, homecoming night in Paradise?
It always makes you feel better being at home because you kind of never know what you're going to get from us on the road. I think FAU just has better talent across the board. Like, I could see FAU still being able to pull this game out, even if they maybe lose the turnover battle by like 1 or 2 and they play their C game. And I think UTEP would have to bring truly their A-plus game. So I kind of maybe see a similar thing. I think UTEP's going to hang around maybe for the first 2.5 quarters, 3 quarters, and maybe FAU scores a late touchdown with like Tronny or something. 31-13-ish early week score, pending some changes, but that's kind of what I see.
I'm around the same boat, but I expect UTEP to come out swinging. There's a lot of talk of the Miners maybe looking ahead, but I mean, this is going to be the most excitement that program has seen. And again, no disrespect, Alex, in over a decade. And I think they're going to really ride that. I think they're really going to want College game day coming to El Paso, which would be well-deserved. Because of that, I don't think we're going to cover. I have FAU winning, but I think it's going to be 31-24. Something that makes me feel a bit better is I saw a stat earlier today that UTEP has never won a game in the Eastern time zone. Fun fact. They have one tie, and that was to West Virginia, like in 1980. So there you go. Alex, hopefully you're not going to block us for any of that, brother.
No, I was going to bring that up too. I should have brought that up in my prediction, because that's always a quirky stat that us UTEP UTEP types like to bring up, and that's why I put my prediction, because until the Miners can break through on that, and isn't that one of the most weirdest stats you can think of? That's how I always look at it too. So yeah, no love, it's facts, man, and the facts are UTEP has struggled on that part of the country.
Well, the thing is, brother, every program has those stats. FAU has never won a game outdoors above like 4,000 feet. FAU's never won a game when the starting kickoff temperature is below 40 degrees. You know what I mean? There's all these things that definitely get to student athletes, So all in all, Alex, hey, man, it's been too long, brother. Thank you so much for chatting. I definitely miss our chats, especially about UTEP basketball and Omega Harris and those really impressive teams over there. So thanks so much for joining us, man. We really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, Jack. Kirk, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate you guys. Good luck this week. Good luck the rest of the way, man. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, so Owl Nation, that's going to go ahead and do it for this week's episode. Alex, thanks so much for joining us. Man just got off of work over there. It's like still 5-6 o'clock, so man's probably hungry. So we appreciate his time, and Owl fans, it's definitely a tough test, no doubt about it. UTEP, yeah, they have the second to lowest strength of schedule this year, but you play the team that's in front of you, and they've done that, and they've done that soundly. So it's definitely going to be a tough competition. top of the table clash, like we said, but it's going to be homecoming. It's going to be a great opportunity. FAU, we have everything to play for. We control our destiny. So we got to take care of our own stuff. So on behalf of Kirk and myself, we want to go ahead and thank you guys so much for listening. You guys know the drill. This is going to go up on YouTube and on fuowlsnest.com on Tuesday, Spotify, and iTunes or Apple Podcast on Wednesday. So thanks so much for following, guys. Thanks so much for listening, and go Owls.